Hello, and welcome to the 31 days of Halloween. I am Xlight, and this is my channel. Before we get started, if you would please give this video a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. If you would like to be subscribed, go ahead and do that. If you'd like to be notified when my content goes live, go ahead and ring that bell. And also, as a little incentive, if you would leave comments below and pay extra attention to my videos, there is something in common with all 31 videos. One thing in common with all 31 videos. What could it be? I'm not in some of them, so it's not me. They're not all quote-unquote Halloween themed, so it's not that, is it? Is it a subject? What could it be? And if you guess, you will win a free gift card to Amazon. If no one guesses, then from the people who leave the comments below, there will be chosen someone to win free money. That is not scary. And we would love to be giving that away. So, let's get started, shall we? Today we're going to talk about the unsolved case of JEANETTE DePALMA, which is widely implicated to be caused by witchcraft and Satanists in 1972. Do you believe that's possible? Well, let's check it out. In 1972, a body of a teenage girl was discovered atop a cliff, high above an abandoned quarry in the town of Springfield, New Jersey. Admittedly, at the time, nobody knew many details about the case other than the fact that the corpse was found thanks to a dog that had brought home a badly decomposed human forearm to his master. The arm and the corpse would later be identified as belonging to JEANETTE DePALMA. She was a local teenager who had been missing for 6 weeks. The sad details of this case were the lingering rumors around the town of Union County that the disappearance and subsequent murder had ritualistic overtones. The remote hilltop location where the body was discovered was said to have been strewn with cult-like symbols, and the body of the girl was rumored to have been placed on a makeshift altar in the woods. Newspaper headlines even suggested that perhaps this girl was sacrificed in a witch rite. There are various versions of the JEANETTE DePALMA story. For the record, JEANETTE was just 16 years old. That swirl around, and they are either blaming a coven of witches or a local group of Satanists. The strange things that have been discovered in some investigations of the case was that after 30 years, most people who remember the crime are still too frightened to speak about it. Many people questioned about this murder seem to recall the same scant and or gruesome details, but nobody wants to go on the record and nobody wants to have their name published, including the Springfield Police Department. The general consensus of the people that will speak, anonymously of course, in regards to little JEANETTE's murder seem unanimous in agreement on 3 issues. 1, that it was some way cult related. Number 2, that the police covered up some of the facts. And that 3, Jeanette's killers are still at large. Could the death of Jeanette DePalma really be attributed to some evil force operating in the quiet neighborhoods of suburban Union County in the 1970s? Or had time and the rumor mill merely distorted the facts of the case and sensationalized the crime, even though the headlines at the time did suggest witchcraft? That is a question that many people ponder, yet there's no answer. Several leads in the story are cryptic, vague, contradictory. Some were downright creepy. Some of the tips were cautionary, while others seemed to have a sinister undercurrent. Most of the leads to come out came in the mail in plain white envelopes, and they had no return addresses. Some of the letters were typed. Some were handwritten. All were anonymous. All the letters came from within the state, according to the postmark. Some of those sent were from people who still lived in the area. Others were from people who remembered the incident but had moved away from the area. But they all remembered the case with horror. One letter sent in read, "This is in regards to the story of Jeanette DePalma. When her body was found, it was not on an altar. There were logs around her body. She needs to be put to rest finally. I'm sure something or someone out there must be able to give you some information about this case. Maybe she did herself in, because at the time there was a lot of Satan stuff going on in the reservation. Sorry, I can't give you my name for more reasons than one. Signed, Anonymous." Another was, "I was a young teenager when the discovery of Jeanette DePalma happened and lived in the next town. About 2 years prior, there was much talk in my school about a cult in the surrounding area. They were known as the Witches. They must have let it be known in the area that they had planned to kill a child on or about Halloween, either by kidnapping or sacrificing them, or by poison. I remember being very anxious about this because I went trick-or-treating in those days. I didn't even read the newspapers, but I was well aware of the dog that brought home the girl's arm. The story was very well known, as I lived within 3 miles of that quarry." Signed, Anonymous. Another read, "Apparently my mom knew Jeanette, because Jeanette worked at a clothing store in Summit named Sealfons. They were about the same age, which should have been around 13 or 14. My mother and some of her friends used to hang out and camp in the quarry. That is, until they found out about the murder. My uncle, who was a Summit cop, came to warn my mother against going out there any longer, and from what I was told, these details were never released to the public. When the dog brought the arm home and the search for the body started, they found arrows carved in the trees that would lead you to the body. The location was high up on a cliff. All around her body were dead animals tied to trees with strings in jars. Shortly thereafter, there were reports of animals being mutilated and hung in the same fashion in the Watchung Reservation, which is also very close to the scene of the crime. The Watchung Reservation, or the Res, has been reported to be the center of devil worship activity for years. Signed, Anonymous. And I too forgot about the death of Jeanette DePalma, but I can never forget all the weird stuff that happened in Summit, Mountainside, Springfield, and for me, the majority of it in the Watchung Reservation. Now that I think back on it, it would make sense that Springfield would cover up the murder so as to not tarnish the reputation of the town. I know that the sacrifice that my friends saw was never reported or was in the newspaper, but I remember, and I sure as hell know they do too. Signed, of course, by Anonymous. Another. I knew Jeanette DePalma very well, and my friend went out with her. We used to go to church with her. She was a religious girl, but I think her parents forced her to go to church. She was kind of, a little bit of a wild girl. We all went up to the house and helped look for her and spoke with her parents. I don't think my friend, who was quite in love with her, ever recovered from it. I was very surprised that they, the police, don't have anything in the archives about her. It's funny. My wife heard the story and she says, don't even get involved. It's a satanic thing. It was all the talk of Union County for 2 weeks. Then, boom, it was gone. It left the papers very quickly. That in itself is very spooky. In the past 30 years, I've only thought about that girl twice. And I feel a little ashamed of myself. Holy cow. Everyone forgot about Jeanette DePalma. That poor girl. So just what did happen to 16-year-old Jeanette DePalma? Why would the cops try and cover it up? Unless, is it possible that it was somebody they know? Or a group they belonged to? Or they themselves or their families threatened? We'll probably never know. But let's not forget Jeanette DePalma, left alone high atop a cliff. Good night.